He looks like the perfect husband.
He was very handsome, very charming.
He was wealthy.
Right up there with a genius.
But what he wants is control. Total control.
He'd bring in prostitutes and make her watch.
When she divorces him and starts another family, it spells big trouble.
Allen said, I want her in a wheelchair with her tongue cut out.
She runs, but she can't hide.
I'm involved in a horrific murder.
My name is Steve Schirripa. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. I've seen good people turn bad and bad people turn worse. Some took contracts to carry out a hit. Some were victims of a hit. To Hitman, life and death are just part of the business. It's nothing personal. It's November 7th, 1997, Sarasota, Florida. Sheila Bellush is trying to make a different life for herself and her kids. One that doesn't include her ex-husband, Allan Blackthorne.
She was scared. She was really scared.
But her ex is about to put an end to Sheila's independent streak. He's hired a hitman.
Sheila is being hunted like a deer in the wilderness. It's so cruel.
In just a few hours, Allan will get what he wants. Sheila will be dead. So, this is the story of Sheila and Allan, a couple that should have had it all. Sheila's a doll, I mean, a real sweetheart. How lucky for her to find Allan. Handsome, brilliant, and completely charming. But here's the problem. Sheila's the genuine article. Allan, well, he's a fraud.
In the very beginning, their relationship was perfect. He was very handsome, very charming, and Sheila just thought he was wonderful.
To Sheila Walsh, Allan Van Hout is the man of her dreams. She's smitten. After only 3 dates, Sheila agrees to marry him.
She felt like she was one of the luckiest women on earth.
Debbie Oliver is Allan's aunt. She helped raise him.
Allan had said that he had found exactly what he was looking for, that this was the gal that was gonna go the whole way with him.
After the wedding, Sheila and Allan move into her parents' house in Salem, Oregon. Pretty soon, Sheila and Allan have a bigger family. A girl they named Stevie, and then another girl, Daryl. Sheila's dad, Don, is thrilled with his new son-in-law. The best thing about Allan, he's got ambition. He plans to start up a chain of electronic stores. What better place to invest your nest egg?
He seemed like he really cared for her dad. His father-in-law also seemed to have some money, which Allan always liked that.
Don and Jean were a very gullible, nice couple. Don was salt of the earth. He'd retired military.
Now, Don's not a rich guy, but he's put some money away over the years, and he's got equity in the house. Allan has it all figured out. Sheila's dad believes in Allan, and he's as impressed as his daughter is with his son-in-law's intelligence and energy. Don and his wife put everything they've got into Allan's business.
Somehow he got Don to sign over his boat, to sign over cars, mobile homes. They were thrilled to have such an uptown, high-class son-in-law, thriving businessman.
Problem is, Allan's not thriving. Never was. And you can't sweet-talk a balance sheet. Allan's numbers don't add up.
Allen was living pretty high up there at the time that this business was failing. I think that more money went to Allen and his wants than he put back into the business.
To Sheila's family's everlasting sorrow, Allen isn't the guy to bet your house on. The stereo stores go bust. For Sheila's mom and dad, it's a catastrophe. Life savings gone, a mountain of debt, and no chance of ever getting their money back.
He lost every penny that they gave him. He virtually wiped them out with no concern.
It only takes a year for Allen to destroy Sheila's parents' future. But the only thing that bothers him is that Sheila is upset by her parents' plight. Now he makes her choose, loyal daughter or obedient wife.
Sheila stood behind Allen instead of with her family when this happened, and I think it caused a real rift that really was hard to mend.
You'd think turning your own family into financial roadkill might make Allen pause. Nope. He gets more loans and creates more businesses.
It amazed me, all of the loans he got from the different banks. I know that he took a few banks down. They hounded my folks for a while even, trying to find him and catch him.
It takes a while, but Allen Van Hout runs out of eyes to pull the wool over. If you find yourself hemmed in because of all the bridges you've burned, you're better off going someplace nobody knows you. Allen uproots his family. They end up in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio is an old city that welcomes people making a new start. Here, far from his broken promises, Allen's free to reinvent himself. So he does. And if you're starting over, you might as well change your name. He picks Blackthorne, the name of a fictional swashbuckler. It sounds romantic, dangerous. Allen Blackthorne is born. The new Allen starts a new business with a new strategy. In sales, charm is sometimes all you need. He imports $50 muscle stimulators and peddles them to doctors for $400. And what do you know? He hits pay dirt.
Allen could sell anything to anybody. He sold himself to people. He could walk in and he could just sell you that you knew he was the most prosperous, most influential and wealthy individual.
Now in San Antonio, he makes it big. A successful business, a wife and now 2 beautiful daughters. He's got it all, right? But having the means to indulge yourself also reveals what you really want. And when Allen Blackthorne's ship comes in, it disgorges a very strange cargo.
He was a masochist. He liked to be tied up. He'd bring in prostitutes and make her watch. And it was a terrible situation for a woman.
Making Sheila watch is a way to control her. But what thrills him devastates her.
Sheila called us a few times about how Allen was being very weird on his sexual acts and wanting her to do things. He wanted to do things that was totally not right in her mind at all.
Sheila didn't really want to have sex with him anymore, understandably.
Sheila went from that very confident, outspoken, forward young lady from her wedding to somebody that was fearing. She had to have gone through a horrible time to get to that point. She was just degraded down to a point where she was not the Sheila that she was when we first met her.
Sheila isn't the first woman Allen's tormented. She doesn't know it, but she's actually wife number 3. The first 2 are in hiding because they're still afraid of him.
He was abusive. He was physically and emotionally abusive. He was a sociopath. They're in the middle of the universe, and the rest of us are paper dolls dancing around him. We're only on Earth to make them happy, give them what they want.
Scratch the surface, he's a monster, a control freak. And he's not just a my way or the highway guy. He's more like a my way or you're gonna die kind of guy. In the Blackthorne home, it's getting uglier and uglier. But Sheila clings to the hope she can change Allen.
Sheila put up with a lot of this garbage just because she got that she could help him. She was hoping that just her consistency might change him.
But he doesn't change. And Sheila starts getting her priorities straight. She's a mom with kids to protect.
And I think she was afraid for her girls. She was scared. She was really scared. And it just kept accelerating and accelerating.
Sheila feels trapped in a world of pain and fear.
He tried to drown her once in the toilet, and the beatings were horrendous. All she wanted was out, and boy, that was almost impossible. And yet, she eventually got enough strength when he was just too terrible to try to leave.
But Allen can't just let a woman walk out. He's a control freak, remember? He has to call the tune or there'll be trouble.
He didn't want her. And he let her know that with his fists and with the belt and the cruel things he did. But he wanted her to stay until he was ready to let her go.
Sheila learns the price of defying Allan Blackthorne. And let me tell you, it ain't pretty.
Some men stalk. Some men eventually give up. Allen plotted to utterly destroy any woman who didn't want him anymore.
A hired killer is hunting down Allan Blackthorne's ex-wife, Sheila.
A completely innocent person who only wanted to be a wife and a good mother.
The killer has a map and a gun and a head full of cocaine. What he doesn't have is a sense of right and wrong.
He did not evidence any conscience.
Through this hitman, Allan Blackthorne is about to get his revenge. The seeds of murder are sown when Sheila takes the girls, divorces Allen, and starts living her own life. Now, Allan Blackthorne isn't a guy to take well to wifely independence. He's starting to make some more money now. We all know money can't buy happiness, but it can pay lawyers, and that buys misery by the truckload. Allen starts hauling Sheila into court. He doesn't want to pay child support, and he wants sole custody.
Allen did go in and fight for the girls, but I don't know if it was because he wanted them or if it was because he wanted Sheila not to have them. Allen had this I have to win attitude.
Allen loves to intimidate. He's got a camera rolling when Sheila comes to pick up the girls. When they cry, as kids sometimes do, he says the tape will prove in court she's a bad mother.
Certainly, he would say terrible things about Sheila. You know, your mother can't take care of you. It was just, I mean, it was unconscionable. And she was a wonderful mother, and she worried about her little girls.
She loved her girls, just absolutely adored her girls.
While she struggles as a single mother to provide for her family, Allen gets richer and richer. More money for him means more legal misery for her. And that muscle machine is a gold mine.
Made a huge profit. He had money to light his cigarettes with.
I think Allen was right up there with a genius. I don't think there was anything that he couldn't do if he set his mind to it.
Allen remarries a San Antonio society woman. He buys a new house fit for the multi-millionaire he's become.
Allen was wealthy. He was doing very well, living a very comfortable lifestyle.
Sheila, she's in a small apartment, getting by on what she makes as a secretary. Allen loves messing with Sheila in family court, and he's got the means to do it. In fact, he's got so much money now, he spends most of his time pursuing his hobbies, harassing Sheila and, most of all, hitting the links.
Allen had a phrase. He says, "What's that got to do with golf?" Everything in his life he wanted to build around golf. He loved golfing.
Enter Danny Rocha. Danny's a father of three who can barely put food on the table.
I was a gambler, full-time gambler. I booked bets, pretty much anything. I wanted to gamble on a golf course.
Rocha was a pretty smart, clever young man. He had great ambitions. He recognized his talents. His talents were golfing and gambling and assessing risks and limiting those risks to the greatest extent possible.
As we'll see, Danny's gonna play a leading role in Allen's obsessive plot to kill Sheila. Outside of court, he's never told his story before, but we'll get to that later. For now, they bond on the fairways. Danny's a former amateur golf champ who's been scraping by on his bookmaking and what he can win off well-heeled duffers. To Danny, Allen's new passion for betting on golf is a gift from the gods.
Well, we'd make bets. They range from anywhere from, start out at about 500 up to 5,000 a hole. I made a killing. There were times when I'd win up to 20, 30,000 in a day.
Danny could pocket more in one day from bets with Allen than Sheila and the kids get from him in a year.
I saw him as a sucker, and I saw myself as a hustler, and I saw some easy money there. But then as time went on, a bit of a friendship grew out of that. So it was kind of a half friendship, half business type of thing. So yeah, it was somebody that I wanted to keep around me.
In Allen Blackthorne, Danny Rocha finds a hustler's dream date, a rich mark who doesn't mind losing. But who's zooming who? Blackthorne can spare the money. What he wants is someone he can control, someone to do his bidding. Kind of a Frankenstein-Igor relationship.
Allen played a lot of games, and he played pretty complicated games. He was clever, and he could devise long-range schemes.
Allen's a sociopath, remember? He doesn't bond, he uses. Maybe Danny could someday be useful in the hostilities with Sheila. The war with Allen drags on for years, and Sheila settles into the life of a single mom with a malicious and stingy ex-husband, which makes her a pretty typical American woman. Sheila's a real trooper. She does more than get by. I mean, she bounces back. She patches her life up, mends fences with her mom and dad. After a few years, she meets a new guy, Jamie Bellush. Jamie's a solid citizen, ex-Marine, pharmaceutical salesman. He's steady. At the wedding, Allen sends a little gift, a process server with legal papers. He's demanding more time with the girls.
And after the process server gave her the papers, Allen and the process server high-fived and laughed as they walked away.
Allen just ruined the whole evening, of course. He was great at that, finding when Sheila might be the happiest and then just blackening everything to do with it.
But for all his lawyers and videotapes, the court keeps smacking him down. They just don't see things his way.
Allen was trying to modify custody. On each of these occasions, every one of these occasions, Allen lost.
If Allen can't win battles, he can use his money to keep the war going. But now Sheila has a protector, an ally. And Sheila has another surprise to deliver. Actually, several surprises. Sheila and Jamie go from 2 kids to 6. 4 new babies, 3 boys and a girl. The quad mom is the toast of the town.
The Bellush quad celebrated their first birthday today. Quad mom Sheila couldn't be more proud.
They interact more with you, don't you?
Sheila got all the attention, and Allen took that as a slap in the face. This woman that he'd tried to squash was not only surviving, she was thriving. And she was famous.
As Allen loses control of Sheila, he's gaining it over Danny Rocha. By now, Danny is financially dependent on him.
I was living with my aunt in downtown San Antonio in an older neighborhood. And as I started making more money gambling, I was able to afford a larger, nicer home. Well, Allen Blackthorne helped out quite a bit.
Allen lost lots and lots of money, but he clearly was in control of the situation. He was smarter than Danny.
At the time, I felt like I was manipulating him, and looking back, he was the one that was really manipulating me.
With Blackthorne's cash, Danny's a new man. He leads clients to think he's a connected mob guy. But it's all smoke and mirrors.
As time went on and I started playing a more of a role of a bookie, I took on a mentality of a wannabe gangster. It was just a role I was trying to fulfill.
Blackthorne, he's playing a role too, protective father.
Allen claimed that she was abusing the kids. The picture that was being painted in my mind was somebody that, wasn't too good of a person.
Slapping Ritz on her is no longer enough. Allen decides she has to be slapped around for real.
He basically wanted to have a message sent to her to stop abusing the kids.
And Danny the gangster is just the guy to make it happen.
At that time in my life, I was living a life of a bookie or a gambler or a golf hustler, so he looked at me as maybe having some connections to reach out and do what he wanted done to Sheila, and that was to have her scared, intimidated. That was kind of where it started to escalate.
You remember how when you were a kid, your parents would get worried that you might be hanging around with kids who are a bad influence? Well, mine did anyhow. Too bad Danny Rocha's mom isn't around to nip her son's relationship with Allan Blackthorne in the bud. Because Allen truly is a bad, bad influence. And nobody, not even Sheila, has seen the worst of it yet. You'll see what I mean. Allan Blackthorne has enlisted wannabe gangster Danny Rocha to send his ex-wife a message to stop abusing his children. No matter that she doesn't, Danny doesn't know that. On the way to a West Coast golf tournament, Allen sucks the gullible Danny into a scheme to avenge hurts that never happened. What he wants now is way beyond just slapping her around.
Allen said she has to be beat up really badly. I want her in a wheelchair with her tongue cut out. I want her incapable of taking care of the children.
Now Danny's in a pickle. He needs Allen's money. Oh, Danny boy.
I agreed to help him, yes. I agreed to help him find somebody. But I was able to put it in a part of my brain where I just didn't think of the consequences. So I got involved.
With Danny Rocha lined up to arrange some violence, Blackthorne unveils his next move on the legal front. After years of court battles with Sheila, Blackthorne suddenly caves. He'll give up his parental rights to Stevie and Daryl. It means he won't be on the hook for child support, but Sheila smells freedom and grabs the deal. Allen's move is a fake-out. He's not really going to stop seeing his daughters or messing with her. But what could Sheila do about it? Plenty, as it turns out. Soon enough, she smells a rat. Jamie has a new job in another city. But the real reason they're shipping out is Allan Blackthorne.
It was a combination of a constant harassment and fear. They had no peace in San Antonio, and they knew it was only a matter of time till Allan would do something to make their lives miserable.
After giving up custody, Blackthorne can't mess with them in court anymore. But Jamie and Sheila know he has to be plotting something bad.
Allan Blackthorne was capable of hurting people, and both Jamie and Sheila Bellush knew that.
So, one night, Sheila, Jamie, and the 6 kids vanish. No goodbyes, no forwarding address.
They took great steps into hide where they were moving to and hide their identity.
With Sheila gone, Allan has lost control.
And when he lost that, he just couldn't handle that.
He could not tolerate the idea that she had beaten him. He told Danny that thinks she's outsmarted me, but I'll show her.
Sheila and Jamie settle in Sarasota, Florida. Allan is 1,000 miles away in Texas. But Sheila still doesn't feel safe.
Sheila visited with ministers as well as with physicians, expressing her very deep concern and her fear that Allan was in search of her and that he would cause her harm.
If you want to find someone and you've got enough money, you can. Sheila and Jamie are careful, but it isn't enough. Blackthorne hires a private eye. And just like that, he knows where they live. It was bad before, but now it's way worse. Sheila has tried to outsmart him. Rocha thought he'd sign on to put Sheila in the hospital. A $50,000 incentive makes it clear the destination is now the cemetery.
And it was at that meeting that Danny fully realized and understood that Allan's intention was to have Sheila murdered.
Allan passes Sheila's address to Danny. But being the middleman in a murder plot is not a natural role for this small-time hustler.
Danny hadn't been in trouble. He was a family man. He was religious. And yet, in increments, little by little by little, Allan made getting rid of Sheila good. I'm talking about years of brainwashing.
He had an incredible lifestyle. I admired that. He had a lifestyle where he lived in a nice home, had some nice things, and was able to play golf 7 days a week.
Danny wants to be just like Allan, a real businessman.
I really wanted to have a sports bar. We'd been talking to Allan about financing it. I wanted to go legit, and I was tired of hustling. And I thought maybe this was my avenue to do that.
So to go legit, he signs on to find someone to kill Sheila.
Danny would never, on his own volition, have thought to kill someone. But he was so ambitious and so greedy that when Blackthorne proposed to him this murder, Danny saw an opportunity that he took.
But who can Danny find? He's not Murder Incorporated.
I really wasn't a gangster. I was just you know, that wannabe gangster. So I really didn't know anybody that would do that kind of thing.
You might think he'd go looking for a subcontractor, maybe on the internet or something. Not even close. Danny's search begins and ends with an old friend who works at the golf course, Sammy Gonzalez.
He was like a little brother to me, and I had a lot of love for him.
Sammy was sort of a lost young man. He was not the brightest guy that you would ever meet, but he had this need, this desire to be liked.
He's a likable guy, he really is. He's the kind of guy that wants to help, if he can help. And I think what I did, looking back, is I took advantage of that by getting him involved.
Sammy won't get blood on his own hands, but he agrees to help find the killer.
So I take the burden of manipulating Sammy into getting involved, and he felt obligated through his love for me.
The job keeps getting passed along to more and more unlikely characters. The last link in the chain, Sammy's cousin, Joey Del Toro.
He was well-spoken, clean-cut. From doing some background on him, he was a great football player.
The handsome star athlete that every one of us girls in high school would have probably been in love with.
Joey's got no history of violence either. He's just another poser, a wannabe.
He was trying to come across as a tough guy and that he collected debts for people. He was trying to play a hitman, but he was way over his head.
Rocha tells Joey the story of this cruel woman who has abducted his friend's kids. She's taken them to Florida, and the only way to save the kids is to kill the evil witch. It's actually the plot of a fairy tale. Hansel and Gretel, I think. But Joey, he's not much of a reader. So to him, it's new. He actually believes it. Joey jumps right on it.
He did not evidence any sense of morality or conscience.
The price of Sheila's head, after Roach's 80% cut, is down to 10 G's.
Danny said the easiest way to do it is just to shoot her.
So the deal is sealed, and so is Sheila's fate. Dr. Allan Blackthorne, has taken 3 men who are not hardened criminals and created monsters. This is a guy who's lived his whole life waiting for someone to say, "Yes, master." Doesn't he know things didn't turn out so well for old Frankenstein? Sheila Bellush is gonna die so Allan Blackthorne can feed his obsession for total control. It's not gonna end well for anybody. Joey's never murdered anyone before, but today is the first day of his new job as a cold-blooded contract killer. The would-be hatchet man checks into a Sarasota hotel. The next day, Joey buys a camouflage outfit. He thinks that's gonna help him blend in, just like a real hitman.
He had seen on TV people committing crimes in camouflage. He kind of acted out what he thought was the perfect hit.
But Del Toro is far from the cool, calculating hitman of Hollywood movies. I mean, he's a bungling amateur. On his way to the hit, he gets lost. His deadly mission is a botched job from the get-go, which is why we have this videotape of him confessing to Detective Chris Iorio.
I'm in my car. I try to find my way back, but I get lost, so I ask for directions to this lady.
We stopped at a gas station, handled a map that was covered in plastic and left a fingerprint on that, which we later recovered, and actually got into an argument with the lady at the gas station, arguing whose directions were the best, and that's what made her remember him.
So, Joey Del Toro is headed to a rendezvous with Sheila Bellush. He's got a gun and a contract to kill her. He's been told Sheila's a cruel, kidnapping, child-abusing evil witch. And Joey needs some quick cash. So he gets himself good and high and sets out to do what needs to be done. You know, for the kids.
I parked, I guess, not in any driveway or anything, but just to the side of the road.
November 7, 1997 is a day like any other in the Bellush household. With quadruplets, every day is a whirl of kid care. Starting at daybreak, breakfast, laundry, that washing machine runs pretty much around the clock. Then Sheila takes Stevie to school. The only thing different about this morning is the man waiting outside. Right now, he could be just another guy in a car. But as soon as Sheila pulls away from the house, that will all change. And so will the lives of a whole bunch of people.
Because he was pulling out of the house and there were kids.
As soon as Sheila takes Stevie to school, Del Toro sneaks up to the house in his anything but inconspicuous camo gear.
He did everything that he thought was going to remove him from the crime scene, but in looking back at it, he did everything that exposed him to the crime scene. Had he just wore flip-flops, a pair of shorts, and a T-shirt, he would have blended in. But nobody in that neighborhood was going to be walking around with camouflage. It just doesn't happen.
I walked over to the house and I got in through the window, washroom window.
Del Toro finds a hiding place and waits for Sheila, his prey. When Sheila gets back, Del Toro stays hidden. He wants to see the evil witch in action.
Then you said you were in there with her for a while before anything happened, is that correct?
Yes.
By how long?
I would say about 2 hours. And I was looking at her for a while to see if she mistreated her kids in any way.
He gets a shock. Sheila's not evil.
Basically, what you seen her doing with the kids was a loving and caring mother.
Yes, she was. She was a loving, caring mother.
So now Del Toro has doubts.
I was debating whether or not to do it, you know, but actually I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it because, like I said in the courtroom, it wasn't me.
Del Toro has seen enough. Danny and Sammy can take this job and shove it.
He had second thoughts and was just about to leave.
He makes for the door, but it's a long way, and there are obstacles.
When she saw him and he saw her, and as far as he was concerned, it was too late to leave.
In his panic, Del Toro's doubts go out the window. Sheila's fighting him with everything she's got.
And the mother instinct kicked in. She was gonna fight this guy. We found some of his tissue under her fingernails. She was gonna fight to the end to protect her kid.
But remember, this guy is bigger, stronger, and he's got a gun.
He pulled out this .45 automatic and shot her in the face.
But the gunshot isn't fatal. Del Toro pulls the trigger again, but the gun's jammed. He goes for the kitchen knives. Sheila's badly wounded, but she goes for the phone. We've gotten used to immediacy these days. I mean, everything's at our fingertips in a nanosecond. But in Sheila's little rented hideaway, there was one antique, an old rotary telephone. And if you're in a hurry, say, somebody's trying to kill you, how fast you can call for help can make a difference. For Sheila, the difference between life and death.
She went to dial 911, and she never did get to complete the phone call. The fact that she couldn't call 911 had a big impact on whether she lived or died. And he took a knife out of her cutting block.
In a crime scene photo, I have never seen as much blood. The kitchen was just awash with her blood.
If Sheila had just been able to dial 911, she might have lived.
The medical examiner said had she got medical attention right away, she might have survived those injuries.
Sheila went down fighting. Allan Blackthorne now has what he wanted. Sheila can never defy him again. Control games, remember? Blackthorne had told Danny Rocha he wanted to protect his daughters, but nobody is there that day to protect 13-year-old Stevie.
Stevie came home, and she was all excited to tell her mom that she'd ask a boy that she liked to the Sadie Hawkins Day dance, and he said yes.
Stevie finishes the call her mother started.
Stevie's 911 call was very shocking to anybody that listened to it.
I listened to 911 center. What's the matter?
I don't think Stevie has ever been the same. That haunts her. I've talked to her many times since, and that whole scene haunts her terribly.
Alan's aunt, Debbie Oliver, gets the news at home on TV.
I thought perhaps that Allan was involved. I didn't want to believe it. I just did not want to believe that he had done that. My heart went out to Stevie. That's what made me angry with Allan, is because he did not care that Stevie found her. There was no emotion. He should have worried about his daughter.
When he gets the news, middleman Danny Rocha starts to understand just what he's done. Orchestrated the killing of an innocent mother of 6.
I tried to find a spot that I could put it in my mind and not even think about it until it came to a head on November 7th, and I realized, oh my God, what the hell I got into. Yeah, I was terrified. One minute I'm running around San Antonio playing golf and trying to make car payments and house payments and watching sports games, and the next thing I know, I'm involved in a horrific murder.
It was not that he didn't expect it or want it to happen. To the contrary, he did want it to happen because that's how he was going to get his money, and that's how he was going to get the loan for the sports bar.
So Allen Blackthorne wins. If you're a control freak, this is as good as it gets. But there's a wrinkle in this story, even at the end. Sheila had seen it all coming. She got the story out. Even from the grave, she kept control. She had told her sister, if anything happens to me, find that crime writer Ann Rule. Get her to tell my story. And that's exactly what happened.
I felt tremendous responsibility because she knew that in the end she would not be able to get away from Allan. There was no place where she could hide.
It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to work out what happened. It's elementary, really. Del Toro left a trail a mile wide.
Inside the house, he left a bloody fingerprint on the dryer, a bloody towel there. He left a cartridge there. Everything you could ask for as a forensic investigator to collect.
Investigators quickly ID Del Toro as the killer, but they can't find him. Then they get a tip that Sammy Gonzalez knows where his cousin is.
Pretty soon into the interview, he gave up his co-conspirators. Sammy Gonzalez immediately admitted that Del Toro was involved and that Danny Rocha was involved.
I had authorities from Florida and Texas that were speaking to me, and it was like flashes of scenes that were running in front of me, and next thing I know, I'm in a jail cell.
Joey Del Toro is arrested in Mexico and extradited to Florida. He pleads guilty. Rocha agrees to testify against Allan Blackthorne. During his trial, Blackthorne swears that Rocha is lying. But Blackthorne can't convince the courtroom that Rocha hatched the plan on his own. The verdict, guilty. The sentence, life, no parole.
The case all adds up to a remarkable level of greed and a need, a compulsion for revenge that I frankly don't understand.
Everyone involved in Sheila's murder got plenty of time. Sammy Gonzalez, 19 years. Joey Del Toro, life, no parole. Danny Rocha, life, no parole.
I'm involved in a tremendous amount of pain. There are consequences and dominoes that I never even had foreseen coming. And I regret that. I don't know why I was able to do that. But here we are.
Locked up in a federal prison, Allan Blackthorne, a man who's got serious control issues, has now lost control of every single aspect of his life. He's trying desperately to get out. He says Rocha made up the whole conspiracy. He even sent us a letter. He wants us to lead the fight to get him out. Al, if you're watching, I'll get back to you real soon on that.